We're also exploring and assessing new frontiers for oil and gas development from Alaska to the Mid and South Atlantic states. Because producing more oil in America can help lower oil prices. Can help create jobs, and can enhance our energy security, but we've got to do it in the right way. Now, even if we increase domestic oil production, that is not going to be the long-term solution to our energy challenge. I give out this statistic all the time, and forgive me for repeating it again. America holds about 2% of the world's proven oil reserves. What that means is that even if we drilled every drop of oil out of every single one of the reserves, that we possess offshore and onshore, it still wouldn't be enough to meet our long-term needs. We consume about 25% of the world's oil. We only have 2% of the reserves. Even if we doubled US oil production, we're still really short. So the only way for America's energy supply to be truly secure is by permanently reducing our dependence on oil. We're going to have to find ways to boost our efficiency so we use less oil. We've got to discover and produce cleaner, renewable sources of energy that also produce less carbon pollution. Which is threatening our climate. And we've got to do it quickly. Now, in terms of new sources of energy, we have a few different options. The first is natural gas. Recent innovations have given us the opportunity to tap large reserves. Perhaps a century's worth of reserves, 100 years worth of reserves in the shale under our feet. But just as is true in terms of us extracting oil from the ground. We've got to make sure that we're extracting natural gas safely, without polluting our water supply. That's why I've asked Secretary Chu, my energy secretary, to work with other agencies. The natural gas industry, states, and environmental experts to improve the safety of this process. And Chu is the right guy to do this. He's got a Nobel Prize in physics. He actually deserved his Nobel Prize. And this is the kind of thing that he likes to do for fun on the weekend. He goes into his garage and he tinkers around and figures out how to extract natural gas. I'm going to embarrass him further. Last year, when we were trying to figure out how to close the cap, I sent Chu down to sit in the BP offices, and he essentially designed the cap that ultimately worked. And he drew up the specs for it and had BP build it, construct it. So this is somebody who knows what he's doing. So for those of you who are studying physics, it may actually pay off someday. But the potential for natural gas is enormous. And this is an area where there's actually been some broad bipartisan agreement. Last year, more than 150 members of Congress from both sides of the aisle produced legislation. Providing incentives to use clean-burning natural gas in our vehicles instead of oil. And that's a big deal. Getting 150 members of Congress to agree on anything is a big deal. And they were even joined by T. Boone Pickens, a businessman who made his fortune on oil. but who is out there making the simple point that we can't simply drill our way out of our energy problems? So I ask members of Congress and all the interested parties involved to keep at it. Pass a bill that helps us achieve the goal of extracting natural gas in a safe, environmentally sound way. Now, another substitute for oil that holds tremendous promise is renewable biofuels, not just ethanol. But biofuels made from things like switchgrass and wood chips and biomass. If anybody doubts the potential of these fuels, consider Brazil. As I said, I was just there last week. Half of Brazil's vehicles can run on biofuels, half of their fleet of automobiles can run on biofuels instead of petroleum. Just last week, our own Air Force used an advanced biofuel blend to fly. A Raptor 22 and F-22 Raptor faster than the speed of sound. Think about that. I mean, if an F-22 Raptor can fly at the speed of faster than the speed of sound on biomass, then I know the old beater that you've got, that you're driving around in, can probably do so, too. There's no reason why we can't have our cars do the same. In fact, the Air Force is aiming to get half of its domestic jet fuel from alternative sources by 2016. And I'm directing the Navy and the Department of Energy and Agriculture to work with the private sector to create advanced biofuels that can power not just fighter jets, but also trucks and commercial airliners. So there's no reason we shouldn't be using these renewable fuels throughout America. And that's why we're investing in things like fueling stations and research into the next generation of biofuels. One of the biggest problems we have with alternative energy is not just producing the energy. But also distributing it. We've got gas stations all around the country. So whenever you need gas, you know you can fill up, it doesn't matter where you are. Well, we've got to have that same kind of distribution network when it comes to our renewable energy sources, so that when you are converting to a different kind of car that runs on a different kind of energy, you're going to be able to have that same convenience. Otherwise, the market won't work, it won't grow. Over the next 2 years, we'll help entrepreneurs break ground for next generation. Biorefineries, each with a capacity of more than 20 million gallons per year. And going forward, we should look for ways to reform biofuels incentives to make sure that they're meeting today's challenges and that they're also saving taxpayers' money. So as we replace oil with fuels like natural gas and biofuels, we can also reduce our dependence by making cars and trucks that use less oil in the first place. "70% of our petroleum consumption goes to transportation, 70%. And by the way, so does the second biggest chunk of most families' budgets goes into transportation. And that's why one of the best ways to make our economy less dependent on oil and save folks more money is to make our transportation sector more efficient. Now, we went through 30 years where we didn't raise fuel efficiency standards on cars. And part of what happened in the US auto industry was because oil appeared relatively cheap. The US auto industry decided we're just going to make our money on SUVs, and we're not going to worry about fuel efficiency. "30 years of lost time when it comes to technology that could improve the efficiency of cars." So last year, we established a groundbreaking national fuel efficiency standard for cars and trucks. We did this last year without legislation. We just got all the parties together and we got them to agree, automakers. Auto workers, environmental groups, industry. So that means our cars will be getting better gas mileage. Saving 1.8 billion barrels of oil over the life of the program. 1.8 billion. Our consumers will save money from fewer trips to the pump. $3. $0.00 on average over time you will save because of these higher fuel efficiency standards. And our automakers will build more innovative products. Right now, there are even cars rolling off the assembly lines in Detroit with combustion. Engines. I'm not talking about hybrids, combustion engines that get more than 50 miles per gallon. So we know how to do it. We know how to make our cars more efficient. But going forward, we're going to continue to work with the automakers. With the auto workers, with states, to ensure the high quality. Fuel-efficient cars and trucks of tomorrow are built right here in the United States of America. That's going to be a top priority for us. This summer, we're going to propose the first ever fuel efficiency standards for heavy-duty trucks. And this fall, we'll announce the next round of fuel standards for cars that builds on what we've already done. And by the way, the federal government is going to need to lead by example. The fleet of cars and trucks we use in the federal government is one of the largest in the country. We've got a lot of cars. And that's why we've already doubled the number of alternative vehicles in the federal fleet. And that's why today I am directing agencies to purchase 100% alternative fuel. Hybrid, or electric vehicles by 2015. All of them should be alternative fuel. Going forward, we'll partner with private companies that want to upgrade their large fleets. And this means, by the way, that you students, as consumers or future consumers of cars, you've got to make sure that you are boosting demand for alternative vehicles. You're going to have a responsibility as well, because if alternative fuel vehicles are manufactured but you guys aren't buying them, then folks will keep on making cars that don't have the same fuel efficiency. So you've got power in this process, and the decisions you make individually in your lives will say something about how serious we are when it comes to energy independence. We've also made historic investments in high-speed rail and mass transit. Because part of making our transportation sector cleaner and more efficient involves offering all Americans, whether they are urban, suburban, or rural, the choice to be mobile without having to get in a car and pay for gas.